Hey everybody, Bob Chick. I am here at the Panatta headquarters in Apiro, Italy. We are on location and I am here with seven-time Mr. Olympia, Phil Heath. Phil,
Yes,
welcome
sir.
here to
Yeah.
the Panatta. Obviously, you're very familiar as one of the greatest ambassadors, of course, that we have. So
Yeah. And I have the shirt to prove it.
you
So
do, I know, right?
exactly. So
But it's been a great visit. Of course, you've been here a number of times. Panatta, clearly the best equipment in the world. I think we're
yeah.
both on the same page, but both a little biased when it comes to Panatta.
Yeah, I mean, they're the greatest. I mean, I had heard about them throughout my career, but could never really find it, right? And then as I started seeing them grow and grow and grow more, I'm like, I got to get involved because since I'm one of the best ever, I got to be with the best. And being able to come to the root, to the actual HQ, hanging out with the whole entire team, especially with Rudy and his son, Eduardo. The hospitality has been, one of the best experiences of my entire life. But the equipment, being able to actually train solo, but also train with Rudy,
Yeah,
which is
that's
pretty impressive because this man is 73 years young, and he
right.
kicked both of our butts,
He sure did.
which is pretty
Well, that's
awesome.
what Rudy lives for is
Yeah.
his knowledge. And I want to get into that in just a few minutes, but it's a great opportunity. We get to catch up, of course. But normally we're doing an interview on bodybuilding, of course, and your career and things like that. So this is a great opportunity to kind of weave both of them together.
Yeah.
What sets Rudy apart and Panatta, in effect, from any other company is Panatta not only is one of the longest standing equipment companies in the world, the longest, if I'm not mistaken, but it's the only one I can think of that actually the name of the company is the guy who started it.
Right.
Like there is no Mr. Hammer, there is no
Right.
Mr. Nautilus, that type of thing. But
Exactly.
there is a Mr. Panatta.
That's right. No, and to see what was created from his pure origin of fascination of just being great at something. This is a man of many trades.
Yeah.
No question about it. If you ever have the chance to meet him, I mean, you've met him obviously, but people that are watching, this is a man like Renaissance man. Very creative and was able to take the creativity along with the science, with not just neuroscience, which is huge, but also with the body, the kinesiology, the physiology and stuff. And then to be able to create equipment that also allows us permission to be great.
Sure.
When you hold a piece of equipment and you touch it and you move, there has to be greater intention. And I believe that what he's done is time and time again over the years, over the decades, fine tune it no different than like a Ferrari.
Sure.
Going from back in the day, 50 years ago, 0 to 60 in 9 seconds.
Right.
Now it's like under
Right.
2 seconds, So that's what people do when they're very passionate, very fascinated about, being a better version of self. And that's why you and I are here, because you're the voice of bodybuilding. You've always maintained a certain level of excellence. Obviously, for me, winning all those titles, being Mr. Olympia, carries a certain level of excellence. And that's what we appreciate with Rudy and his entire team here at Panatta, is that it's excellence or nothing. Like, it has to be great.
Well, we talk about mind and muscle as one when it comes to professional bodybuilding. We'll get into that in just a moment. But Rudy has clearly done that. As you just mentioned, the equipment is beautiful and it's well designed, but it's the kinesiology.
Yes.
And it's nobody knows the body better than Rudy, how it functions. I mean, we're training with him and he's teaching us stuff now.
Right.
Which is kind of funny because you were a 7-time Olympia champ, right?
Yeah.
I've been training for 40 something years. I just learned a whole bunch of new stuff.
Yeah, and it was very humbling, but at the same time, it brought more passion. Look, I've been out of the gym scene as far as like competitive bodybuilding for over 3 years now, and just holding equipment, but also learning those nuances of like, wow, my form isn't as great, and I'm a strict form type of dude.
You've always been strict. Yeah.
But to learn more using this equipment, I was able to see things in my body that I haven't seen in a long, long time. And I had to go right on social media. I was like, hey, look at this, like, check this out. And this only been 4 or 5 days of training with him using this equipment. I can't wait to have it in my own facility someday, because I know that the gains are going to continue to improve.
And it's funny because we were talking as we were training, and despite you having obviously one of the best careers in bodybuilding history, with 7 Olympia titles, tied with Arnold, the whole thing. You're still interested in making progress. Like you were actually, we were talking about how you wanted to, look better over the next, let's just say 5 years in terms of your physique growth.
Right. Well, when you're training with someone such as Rudy, I mean, like I said, he's over 70 years old, and you realize the man is still strong.
Oh yeah.
and he still has fibers moving.
Don't let him
So,
train back with you.
no, the guy is a beast. But to see someone have that type of passion, it's almost as if like he had just walked into the gym for the first time. And all it did was transfer that energy into myself to say, you know what, if I can see him doing this and he's 30 years older than me,
Right.
I have no excuse to want to try to be like him as I get older. So, you know, he gave me some great tips, and it also encouraged me. It's one thing to hear someone talk about, oh, I did this one day, I did that. No, he's doing it.
He's doing it still.
And I think we both were inspired. I mean, everyone there was just like, holy smoke, we were doing rear delts last night. None of us could do it. And then he comes in there like the master sensei and just shows us young little white belts how to do it.
Right.
And I'm sitting there like, this is pretty freaking awesome, because if I can learn the science that he has along with the passion he exhibits each and every day, why wouldn't I want to train more? So I've made a commitment, you know, from this week on, I'm like, I'm training my butt off because I want to be as strong, you know, as he is at his age 30 years from now. 30 years from now, I'm thinking, where am I going to be? And I didn't really think about that until like, as we're sitting here, I'm like,
I could tell you what Rudy, but he'll be 103 and still,
yeah, and he'll
still
be
kicking
there.
ass. He'll still be inventing machines, right,
Yes.
and everything. But Phil, talk to me a little bit about, in your career, how much did the mind input into getting your physique where you needed to get it? Okay, how much did that change between your first Olympia win and your last Olympia win? Did it progress? Did it become more? Did it balance out?
I think with regards to the first one, once you win the first one, you know, they say your life changes. It does, because you realize that all of the standards that you've created amounted to something big. Mm-hmm. But at that same time, you have a choice. Either you can regress, you know, and get lazy, you know, just like, well, I won one, you know, I'm good, you know, I'm with the champions. That's it. Or two, you could say, well, I'm a little nervous, I'm a little scared. Or three, you meet that fear and know who the heck you are and say, no, I want more. For me, I always said, like after the first one, I'm like, okay, I'm wearing the crown. That feels pretty heavy. It's going to get heavier though. Are you willing to do it? I'm like, oh yeah, because I love the feeling I had on that stage at the 2011 Mr. Olympia when you named me and knew that sound from the audience, it like went right into my soul. You would think it goes through the ears. No, it went right. All the energy was there. And I was just like, whoa, like this is wow. And that becomes like your new goal, is to have that feeling again and again and again. The hard part is that as you go for the next one, you are a little nervous because of the fact that defending is not the same as chasing, you know, the person in front of you.
Sure.
So psychologically, I had to really position myself to say, you're still chasing. You're chasing history now. When you're chasing the Olympia dream, that's a little different. But once you get there, you're all about like how many people won one, how many people won two, how many people won 3, 4, and so on.
Well, speaking of 4, you had to beat the guy that was not only a close friend, but basically a mentor to you with Jay Cutler, who was a 4-time Olympia champion. Yeah. And how was that emotional experience like for you? Did you have to reconcile that? Or was it just a kind of a passing of the torch? I mean, you could see on stage as I announced you as the new winner,
right,
that you could see Jay wasn't. You could see he was generally happy for you.
Yeah,
really.
He was generally.
How was your mindset though? The other way.
Well, if you look, you know, I'm rewinding the tape, right, of like how it looked on the screen that everybody gets to see.
Sure.
I just remember when they called my name, because he pretty much knew. He kind of spoiled it for me backstage. He was
Right.
like, you totally crushed it. Friday, Saturday, it's done. Like I'm good. And I was like, don't say that. Like, you know, and I'm being like the friend and don't say that. Like, and I'm like, wait a minute. Like,
You're trying to
no,
win.
like I'm
Yeah,
still
right.
trying to win, man. Like, so of course there's the friendship, the brotherhood, but he said, all I want is for you not to fall down to your knees, because I had to watch Ronnie Coleman do that for a decade, you know, pretty much. And I said, no, that won't happen. But when they announced me champion, of course I was, you know, emotional. But then if you see, I ran right to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it was almost like, not that we were a team, but we were a team, because you know, he got me into this. Like he saw me. We saw each other at my first amateur show, and I just thought, wow,
Well,
that's
it's
really
almost
cool.
like he was grooming you
Yeah.
to take his
Like
place.
almost silently, like
Right.
Like it's not like he called me on the phone and said, yeah, you're gonna beat me one day.
Right.
It was, and I didn't look at it me beating Jay, and that's something that, you know, I haven't said too often, is that I didn't beat Jay Cutler. I became Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
That's the mindset that I had, because going into a show, you think, well, I have to beat this guy, or I have to beat. No, you have to be Mr. Olympia,
Right.
because Mr. Olympia can beat anyone. So yeah, that moment will always be one of the greatest moments in bodybuilding history, because of the passing of the torch, and you know, we were all there to witness it. But what was really fun was having that moment, him being able to say those kind words,
Sure.
but then at the same time saying, you are the king now. Yes. And then seeing all of the other guys on stage pat me on the back, and that was really cool, because you know, we're all highly competitive people. We all work really hard. We all have sacrifices with our friends and families, and even businesses sometimes, just to compete. But it was nice to be acknowledged by your peers, and at the same time, you know, in a week, you know, they want to kick your butt again. So it was but yeah, that moment will always be something. Chasing history is always hard, but the mindset is, I always want one more. No different than, do you want one more rep?
Sure.
One
Right.
more set, one more, you know, one more. And if you continually tell yourself, I just want one more, I have to have this, I deserve this, then good things happen.
You have a distinction of all the Olympians throughout history, from Larry Scott to the current Hadi Chupan defending champion for this year. But you have one distinction that no other Olympian has. You have different Sandows.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those that don't know, like, they had the original Sandow trophy. It's the one that you saw Ronnie Coleman hold, Jay Cutler hold, you know, Dorian Yates,
Sure.
a lot of these guys, Lee Haney. It's about this big. It weighs.
It's heavy.
It weighs. It weighs under 30 pounds, but the way that it's crafted, like, especially when you're dieting, like you're trying to hold that thing up over your head, you know, depleted, it's kind of hard. But so I have 3 of those, and then for the 50th anniversary, there's that same Sandow, but 18 karat gold plated Sandow.
That's impressive.
Which, I mean, if anything, I know that's the one that Jay wanted.
I
you
bet,
know?
yeah.
'Cause he'll tell me all the time, it's like, man, if I could have one, that's the one, because it looks so cool.
Sure. It's just cool.
Yeah, so it's just an iconic thing, because it's 50th. I mean, we'd have to live very long to,
Right.
to even see another person get the 100th one. But then, so I got 3 of the first, the gold one, and then the new one, which is, it's like twice the other one.
It's a little
size.
supersized.
But what's really cool about that one is that on all 4 corners, you can see the champions listed on there.
Yeah, like the Stanley Cup or any of those type of.
Yeah.
I think is it Wimbledon? I don't know.
Yeah,
one of those
yeah,
has the names of all the champions throughout the years.
So for me, I was able to see, you know, Franco Columbu, Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, Larry Scott, like all these names.
How does it feel to see your name along with them? To see Arnold Schwarzenegger, Franco Columbu,
Yeah.
Lee Haney, Ronnie Coleman, right?
For a long time.
And there's Phil Heath.
Yeah. So for a long time throughout my career, I didn't look at it. I would say like the first 2 nights after having that trophy, you're looking at it. And again, like, the way my mind works is like, I'm always thinking about the next thing. So I didn't really take a lot of time to put words to it. But over the pandemic, and when I was inactive, and then I decided to do the Olympia in 2020, that's when my wife was like, look, I know you're a little depressed because you're kind of trying to figure out what you want to do, if you want to compete again or not. And then obviously we're going through this whole world lockdown. you need to sit with these trophies, because I used to put them in a room that I would never look at them, just out of like, I don't want to look at them too much because I don't want to get lazy. I just want to
Right.
keep my edge.
Sure.
But by sitting there, staring at them, it allowed me to realize that each one have a great story that one day I'll be able to share. But in order for me to do that, I have to like feel those emotions, and it's like positive and dark, like it's a lot that goes into winning certain things like that. But overall, I mean, seeing your name amongst the greats and knowing that you earned your name as one of the greatest. I'm tied with Arnold Schwarzenegger at the end of the day, and there's only 2 other bodybuilders ever that have won more than I have. So, I'm very grateful, and I'm proud of myself, obviously. And still to this day, I'm like, I should have got 10. No, like that's just how my mind is.
Yeah.
It's like, mind of a champion, you never are
Well,
satisfied.
that was your original goal. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember when we met, I think you were just getting out of the amateurs, actually.
Yeah.
And we met and we were talking, we kind of hit off an immediate friendship. But your goal at that time, you said, I want to rule for a decade.
Yeah.
I want to win 10 Sandals. And that was, and at the time, I mean, not that you weren't
Yeah, no,
great,
people thought
I
you
mean, you're a great
crazy.
amateur and you're coming up, and I'm thinking to myself, that's shooting pretty high, man. I mean, hey, why not? Why not go for it, right?
Yeah.
But then you won one, and it's like, okay, arguably, a lot of people think you should have gone in earlier than what you actually
Right.
ended up
Right.
entering the Olympia. But whatever, you needed
Yeah.
to go on when you felt you had a good shot
For sure.
to win the competition, right? Some people think you should have won 8 without question.
Yeah.
We've talked about the possibility that there's a very realistic expectation that you could have and should have won 9.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question that doesn't get asked to you too much, because it's great to talk about the winning and the good times and hearing your name and all that, and I got the pleasure to be on stage for every one of your victories.
Right.
7 years in a row, I got to see the name
Right.
Phil Heath,
Yeah.
and new,
Yeah.
and defending, and 3-time, and 4-time,
Yeah.
but all of a sudden there came a time where the name that came out of my mouth
Yeah.
was not Phil Heath.
Yeah.
Bring me back to that moment.
Well, I started noticing so I'm a person of body language. I can see how the other competitors look and feel, and I had a feeling like Sean got a nod from someone that, hey, this probably will be your night. And I'll be honest, like I looked directly at Big Steve, and I was like, where are the call outs going? Because if the call outs are going toward poses that look good for me, then it's my show.
Sure.
Because to me, that's what the confirmation round really is to confirm their opinion on who they
Makes
believe
sense.
should win. Why else would you have a confirmation
Wait,
round?
what are you confirming?
Right, so you're confirming the narrative that you're producing. So when I noticed that the poses that were having us go through, those were ones that were questionable that I could win. So I was like, okay, that doesn't mean you still can't fight. So you're going to continue to fight, Phil, throughout all these poses. You're going to do the best you can and see what happens. So I remained strong, and I just thought I can feel the energy slipping away, not based on how I look or how I feel. It's just like the things are out of your control. And I said, well, I'm going to do whatever I can to show everyone that I love this. I want this. I literally grabbed Sean Roden's wrist and made him come pose with me, because I'm like, I know that you're going to win this, but you're going to have to really,
You gotta earn it.
you're going to have to earn this one. You got to know that, like, I want this still. I'm not laying down. And these pictures from that pose down have never gone up online.
Really?
If you think about it. Probably because
That's something.
maybe because I whipped some butt on that, right?
Well,
So my whole thing is, when fast forwarding, obviously long pause from you.
What?
Yeah, right. And I was trying really hard to. I'll be honest. Like at that point, I said, Phil, there's a chance that you may lose this, but if you win this, you might want to just bow out.
Right, good time to.
Like, you might, seriously, I was literally thinking about this.
Really?
Because because at the time,
See, that's an interesting mindset that you would have had that frame of thinking at that moment.
because of the fact that, like, now let me explain, because I never shared this with anybody.
No, I've never heard this myself.
So, you know, 3 weeks out before the Olympia, you know, my incisions tore on my hernia.
Right.
So I knew, I was like, this isn't good. This is going to definitely affect how I look. There's already a narrative that has been created about like the abs and stuff like that. Just because you have an injury doesn't mean that that's going to draw sympathy and still help you, right?
It's still a sport of appearance.
It's still a sport of appearance. Right. So I thought, okay, you're going to win this one. You're going to say I'll see you guys later, because I got to go get surgery anyway.
Yeah, right.
I'll take as much time as I need as an 8-time champion. Yeah. And if I decide to come back, I'll come back and win 9, 10. That was like in nanoseconds, that's what I was thinking. And, you know, then I realized even then, Phil, like what if you lose? Like, do you leave? Like, do you quit? Like, you know, like what happens?
What do you do?
And then I just got tired of the noise, and I'm very, very strong with handling noise. And I was like, there's too much going on. Just breathe and just like seriously have your faith intact. Just say, God, like if I can't manage this noise. And then I'm like, just give it to me. And then it was like, and new. And I was like, shit, holy crap. Whoa.
Now that's something you hadn't felt
right
in some time. I mean, think about it. The last competition you lost prior to you winning your first Olympia
2010
Olympia. Was what 2010 Olympia, right?
Yeah, but it's different because I just didn't.
But you were coming up at that point. Right. You didn't lose anything.
Right. I didn't win.
You hadn't won yet.
I haven't won.
Right.
See, so I didn't look at it as that.
It wasn't a loss. It was like, wow, holy crap, I'm up there and I'm in the mix.
I'm climbing still.
That's a whole different animal.
Yeah. So that
you ain't used to losing.
No. So that's that.
What did you feel at that? The second I said and knew, like what did you?
I said this once before on another interview, and I said it was like someone took a shotgun and shot me right in the stomach. Just like my whole like
gutted.
Just I felt like I died like for a second. Like all the energy was just like, whoa. And you know, he's excited. I'm looking around, and everybody's like, yeah, like, and I had to in like I said in nanoseconds try to discern like what's really happening. Why are they cheering?
Right.
Why
are they cheering because you won, or are they cheering because you lost?
Right. And I said to myself, it doesn't matter. It hurts, Phil. Mm-hmm. It hurts very, very bad. You know, I look at losing as some people when they talk about champion mentality, I don't think they really understand what it means. To me, champion mentality means you hate to lose more than you love to win.
Fair.
So of course, did I love to win? Yeah, but like I hate losing more than I love to win. So by losing, it's almost like you got last. And because of the standards that I've created, you create enemies because of that. You create people that like you as a person, but want to see the next person win. So I had to realize, Phil, this has all to do with the fact that it was possible for someone to dethrone you on that night. Doesn't mean that he's better than you, like, wholeheartedly. You dominated these guys for 10 years. But yeah, it hurts, but you have to be good with this. And it has nothing to do with him as a human being. You know what I'm saying?
Which brings up a good question. Yeah. In your mind, did he win the show or did you lose the show?
Oh, I totally lost the show.
Because there's a difference.
There is a difference. I mean, because we're talking about, why did Phil Heath lose?
Right.
What will they say? They'll always say, well, Phil had this problem that finally occurred, which created an opportunity for him to win. It wasn't like he overwhelmed me with what I brought, like the previous year or the one before that. No, it was Phil was off, therefore he won. You ask any judge, they all said it. Phil had an off night. And to me, that's no discredit to what Sean had done. It's just the truth that sometimes, like if Michael Jordan had a bad night and he lost, I mean, he had a bad night and he lost.
Right. Yeah, he play again the next day.
Yeah, but is he still the greatest? Yeah, he's still the greatest. So, that's how I took it.
Did you win that show?
Which one? Oh, did I win the Olympia that year?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
In your mind, did you still think, listen, okay, maybe I may not be 100% or my all-time, but I'm still better than this guy?
Oh, for 100%, because the fact is what narrative are we creating here? I don't necessarily need to discredit another individual to make myself look better. I can agree that was I as the peaked Phil Heath that we've seen in like the previous year or the year before that? No. But was that good enough? Absolutely. If you talk about the comparison shots that were up on stage,
right.
you're only going to talk about the ones that he won. You're not going to talk about, so there's 8 bodybuilding poses. You have, 3 that I could say, I could say he won the front double bicep, which my biceps are better, but they're going to talk to abdominals, so I get that.
Right.
You're going to talk about the front lat spread, which his chest isn't as full, but I'll give you that because of the abs. We're going to talk about ab and thigh because that's his best shot.
That's his shot, yeah.
But you're telling me that a person wins the Olympia based on an ab and thigh shot. That's crazy to me. But at the same time, you're going to tell me he has a better most muscular. You're going to tell me that he has a better back double bicep, better back lat spread, better side tricep, not front tricep shot that most people do nowadays.
Yeah, I got you.
A side
traditional
tricep,
side
right?
tricep.
Like no one has ever said that his triceps are tremendous, or his shoulders with the striations, with the separation, with the hanging, like all the other gnarliness that I have. So yes, I can. And here's the best part: that's 5 poses in my favor to his 3. Therefore, you're telling me that, there's a glaring weakness with Phil's abs, but in a side pose, you cannot see them. You can see them in the front shots. You can't have that narrative with the rear shots, and definitely with the most muscular, you can't. So my adjudication, even though obviously it's my physique and I'm going to be biased, is just line up the poses and let's go from there. And also, what hurts is that online, when people look, you're only looking from Friday. If you look at Saturday, no one puts up those pictures because I'm always wearing different posing trunks on Saturday.
So you can distinguish
the pictures. So, it's something that, look, I can't change history. There's many times where if you were to ask any Mr. Olympia that has lost or has not won, you ask a Kevin Levrone, what year do you think he should have won the Olympia? He give you the same idea, Flex Wheeler, same thing. I don't think for fans fans shouldn't also pick us apart for actually having a personal opinion on our performance. Nor should judges, actually. So my feelings about the Olympia in 2018 are, I totally freaking won that show. It was just a moment in time where they chose a different person for whatever reason they wanted to, and good for them. I mean, but what served me well is the fact that I didn't win number 8. Being tied with Schwarzenegger has been very, very, very profitable in my personal life and business life. I get to share a platform with Arnold Schwarzenegger as 7-time, but then also realizing what it feels like to lose, and then to see how friends and family treat you as that happens. But then, of course, fast forward, you take time off, and I came back in 2020, placed 3rd.
I was just going to ask you about that because first of all, kudos to you because you took the loss in stride.
Yep.
There was a lot of speculation. If Phil loses, what's he going to do, right? Because you're so competitive and you got that drive, right, and all that. And there was people out there, and they don't know you clearly as well as somebody like me. I mean, I didn't think there was any question whether you won or lost. And if you won, fantastic, right?
Right.
And if you lost, I mean, you're going to conduct himself like the champion he is, shake the guy's hand, and we'll go to the after party.
What's funny? I shook it. Just hold that thought. I shook Sean's hand, gave him a hug, and I said, "Congratulations." And I said, "Isn't it amazing that we get to make money for our families doing this?"
Huh.
Like, think about that,
right?
And I had to tell him that because it's true. You get to eat, sleep, and train as an amateur, get paid nothing.
Still beats your real job.
Right. And then you get to do this on the biggest bodybuilding stage, be awarded something like first place. You get to win $400,000 for your family. Like your daughter's out there, your fiance's out there, like your family, like they're excited. And you get to travel the world and be able to do these things. I don't think there's another job that you would have thought of or been capable of doing at that time that would allow that type of success and to be called best in the world. Yeah. So I told him that, and then after that, I grabbed, I was like out of sorts because I'm like, well, where do I go? Like, what do I do? Like,
you're in really an unfamiliar water here, bro.
And that's when I remembered, do the same pattern as when you were winning, and that was get on one knee, meditate, prayer, thank God for what you have. Your body still went through a lot of pain and torture, and you got second in the world. I mean, that's
Yeah, it's
not
not like you
it's not
dropped
like,
to 15th. I mean,
right.
let's keep things in
Right. Let's keep
perspective.
it in perspective. Like, yes, it sucks, but let's not be a sore loser, and move on. And like I said, I mean, after that, I was like, what, like, where do I go? Like, I go backstage and
Right.
I'm like,
Well, listen, for
yeah.
7 years, this has been your life, right?
Right.
I mean, it was not that it was everyone was the same because they all had different meaning to you, of course, physically, emotionally, all that stuff. But you wouldn't have known where to go. Like,
Nah.
all of a sudden, the cameras are over here,
Yeah.
on this other guy, and you're like, okay, what do you want to eat, man?
But yeah, so I mean, overall, I mean, that part was an enlightening experience. But what's good about that is that I can now take that experience, and let's say there's another champion on the rise that's winning multiple times.
Sure.
I can mentor that person. Or if I were to interview them, I know exactly what's going on in their head. And if they were to lose, like, let's say Big Ramy and I were chatting, and I could say, you know what, like, I know what it feels like to lose. I understand.
It's a unique perspective because
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot of you guys
Of the questions that
around.
go right, of the questions that go on, like, and especially with the internet. I mean, it's a lot different now. So, yeah, I mean, I just had to share that part with you.
What's the so you went afterwards, got yourself patched up. Everybody knows you had
Yep.
a couple of surgeries actually,
Yep.
and one you weren't expecting.
Right.
To get that area fixed with some mesh and some other stuff. You had
Yes.
some legitimate problems there, which listen, to even overcome them and get on the Olympia stage,
Yeah.
it was a victory in itself. That said, you're not in for personal victories. You're in
No.
for, you want this handout and the record.
Yep.
You decided to come back one more time. Clearly, you were in a different place at that time.
Yeah.
You weren't coming in as the champ. You had lost the last Olympia.
Right.
Give me the mindset that you had at that point. Was it much different?
Yeah. It was something where I needed to tap into other resources, because having that type of inactivity, you kind of like, I don't want to say civilian life like I'm some war veteran, because
Right.
I'm not.
Yeah, we get it.
But
Non-competition
just
life.
yeah, like I kind of got comfortable, and I enjoyed just going into the gym, just on my own when I wanted, not having that type of routine.
Mickey said Rocky
Yeah.
he got civilized.
Yeah, but
Is that what
then
it felt like?
it felt like that. But then I'll be honest, like, I was watching the 2019 Olympia and I saw Brandon Curry win, and I was like, wow, that's really cool that he won. But at the same time, I was like, oh man, I missed this. Whoa. Okay. So I looked at my wife and I was like, one more time. You know what I mean? Like, if it comes out like, and I thought, well, let me just start training first and see how I feel going into the new year. And then once the new year came, I was like, holy smokes, like, this whole pandemic thing. And then I was like, well, that's going to be very difficult. And I thought, well, we're kind of all on an even playing field at that moment. So my why of doing the Olympia has to be very strong. And I'll be quite honest. I mean, I was already I'd probably say 80% completed a documentary. In my opinion, we were already done. And then when this came about, I thought, well, if I'm going to do this show, I already have the resources to film it.
Sure.
Wouldn't it be great to show something that, regardless if I win or lose, I still win? Because I'm able to show, like, the vulnerability that no one really gets to see. I get to share, like, my real inner thoughts about why I'm doing it. And collectively, I was able to be managed with Danny Garcia and TGC, her company. And I remember her inviting Shree and I out to watch Dwayne on Titan Games. And Dwayne gave me some really valuable advice as far as, like, how to approach this show. And that was to, instead of always doing it for everybody else, like, for once and for all, like, do it for yourself this time. Because you say you do it for your fans. I mean, yeah, I do it for my Lord and Savior and all that stuff. But, like, I've always managed to always think, well, I got to do it for Bob. I got to do it. You know what I mean? I got to do it for this person. It's almost like you're saying it to draw, like, energy and inspiration and show humility. But at the same time, you really should be doing this for yourself. You're the one that has to put yourself through the ringer. You're the one that has to put yourself through all this pain, the sacrifice. And with that, you have an opportunity to showcase your physique in a pandemic and show people that you're unafraid. See, I don't think any, and I may get torched online for this, but I don't care anymore. You're only as good as what you're willing to give. What does that mean? I'm willing to bet on myself after having 27 months of inactivity on stage, after having 2 surgeries.
Sure.
Name another bodybuilder with 7 Mr. Olympias that would ever have the guts to do that. I don't think there's too many competitors that would do that. I think they would all wait,
Sure.
which is not a bad thing, mind you, to wait until you feel like you're ready. But if I was to be looked at as foolish because I came back, I'm just that competitive.
Well, I think you almost owed it to yourself to go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, nobody's getting younger, right? At this point, you're 40 or approaching 40.
Yeah. So I was 40, and it's like, well,
and you've got 7 already in your back pocket. If there's going to be an attempt at 8, like Lee Haney, I've interviewed many times. I know you've talked to him as well. And he was going to call it a day after 7, and it was his wife that basically told him, like, look at you. You have an obligation at this point to go for it.
Yeah.
To be the man, right? I mean, you're not going to come this way again. So in many ways, you had to have the same mentality. For I was like, wait a minute here. I got 7.
Yeah.
I'm still young enough, healthy enough. Okay, I got myself fixed up now. I'm feeling good. Got some of the old magic coming back, right? You almost have to go forward at that point. How could you not?
Well, it's a challenge against self. And when, you go online and you hear your favorite influencer talk about is you versus you. But at what level? At what level is it you versus you? No one has, call it what you want, but this is at the highest level of you versus you, because you have 7 Mr. Olympias. If you don't win, the world looks at you like you are a failure. That's a lot of pressure, but I know how to handle it. I know how to handle the temperature. And I loved that. And this was a great challenge. And I had to position my mind of saying, okay, worst case scenario, you don't win. Okay.
So
you've already experienced that.
Right.
Best case scenario is that you go in there, you beat everyone's ass, and the whole world goes on fire for you and stuff. And in the most triumphant moment, probably even over Jay Cutler coming back and winning. Why not just focus on just being the best version you can be? It doesn't mean that you will be anything like you was before. And I think that's the hard part for even some people to conceptualize in the sport, is that they will compare you versus you. They will not compare Phil Heath next to the field. They will compare Phil Heath next to different years.
Where did you have Phil in that last Olympia compared to any other Olympia?
I had myself second, no question, because
But you didn't have yourself. That's an interesting
because here's why.
Because you didn't have, but you didn't have yourself winning.
No, because I didn't nail it that show.
No, I mean
that was the first
I think
time.
that's very fair and very real. I think that will shock a lot of people when they're watching this, that you actually conceded that. No, I thought this guy.
Yeah, I thought because of
this tonight.
I thought just because of me failing to peak, even that Monday, I felt like Tuesday morning, like we were behind the 8 ball, and it was more of just a timing thing. It was a food choice. It was just those things, and those things happen, right?
Sure.
So I have to recognize, and it was a lot of different factors. Like the Olympia is usually in a desert. It's not. It's in a humid area of Orlando. So that's a huge thing. I hadn't seen my coach all year because of COVID. Just a lot of different things. So we tried a couple different things that I just, in retrospect, I'm like, maybe I should have raised my hand and said maybe no. But
your first Olympia, you placed where?
3rd,
and your last Olympia, you placed where?
Filled the circle. So that's where,
I mean, if you ever believe in any type of full circle, like to me, and I always look at the numbers. I'm a numbers guy like that, right? I've always thought it was just kind of cool, or maybe there's something bigger in the universe, right? But Dexter Jackson, 9th place in his first Olympia, actually finished 9th place in his final Olympia, which I thought was kind of freaky.
That is freaky. I never knew that.
But no, I didn't really until I was doing some research for his last Olympia. And it's like, okay, he's 50 now. He's going to go in his last Olympia. He's won more shows than anybody, the whole thing. And I thought to myself, wow, what are the chances, like mathematically, right? And then, but you came into the store next, because I thought, ain't that something? Started 3rd, won 7, history, the whole thing. One of the greatest bodybuilders in the world. And you actually finished in 3rd. And I thought you seemed good with that. For lack of any better. You know what I mean? You seem to reconcile, like, okay.
Yeah, I was, what was interesting is that when you know that you're off, and if you're me and you know you're off, you're like, damn, this sucks, man. Like, and And then I thought, all of these younger guys get to see me right now. How are they seeing me though?
You're talking a decade of competing here.
Right.
You're talking 10 years at this
Right.
point.
So how is a Hunter Labrada seeing me? How is Ian?
Yeah.
Like how are these younger guys seeing me? They grew up watching me dominate.
Yeah.
The last thing I need to be doing is sulking. The last thing I need to be doing is being just a.
Man, I
just a
can't say I
chump.
saw any of that. I mean, you seem very reconciled, very good with it, very
Thank you.
complete. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In terms of, okay, we chalked it up, and as usual, we went and got a bite to eat.
Right.
And, kind of did our thing. But where does the spirituality come into play throughout your career, Phil? With not just in losing moments, but in winning moments and everything in between.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't grow up as like the most religious person. I did grow up in a religious household. However, it's not like I went to church on Sunday every week.
Yeah, there's a difference between religious and spiritual.
So the spirituality, I mean, definitely, I mean, it's been a huge component. Because when you're in that gym, and I would train by myself for over, I want to say 12 years by myself, maybe a little longer, I think, over arm rest. The silence, oh my gosh, all you hear is you and the weights clanging and banging. And even with the sound of like hard rock, heavy metal blasting through the speakers, that becomes silent, like white noise.
Sure.
And I was able to just hyper focus on each rep. And I was raised as an only child, so like growing up, not having brothers or sisters around, having to manage my own schedule, manage my feelings, was always something of my greater benefit in the sport of bodybuilding. So, understanding that my spirit has to be strong, and then owning the fact that I have a strong spirit. You cannot do this sport at that level and not have a strong spirit.
Sure.
So you have to acknowledge where that comes from. And, for me, it's the Most High. And I'm just like, God, you put something in this kid. Clearly, you allowed me to play basketball.
Right.
And you put me in a totally different realm of bodybuilding.
It's not even close.
It doesn't make sense. But to you, it makes sense. So I'm here now. Don't let me fail. Like give me whatever it is. Because at this point, it's like being on a roller coaster. And if you've ridden roller coasters, it's like, and then, and it goes super fast. You can't make it stop.
Right. You just got to manage.
You got to manage it.
Right.
You got to hold on, but then you got to enjoy it. So for me, it was like, no, this is what this is. I'm going to enjoy this ride. It's going to suck. Sometimes it's going to get rocky.
You're going to get some twists and turns.
I'm going to have my neck and then you're like trying to pay attention and it's going faster and faster. And you might want to puke or pass out, but you're just like, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. And
well, you managed it very well.
Yeah.
But you must have taken some tools. Most people know your background, your story at this point, of course, in your career. You were a D1 basketball player and a damn good one.
Yeah.
But, you didn't see your career path going that way. But you found bodybuilding, and that is something that you just responded to.
Yeah.
You had to have taken some tools. I mean, we've done numerous interviews talking about the mindset of the ultimate, the competitor. Mm-hmm. Even though that's a team sport, did you take any tools from your youth and your sports in basketball and bring it into your bodybuilding world?
100%, because not having brothers or sisters around, you had to be competitive with yourself nonstop to keep yourself even.
This is when you grew up rich, right? With the piles of money around you. No, I watched the documentary some years ago.
Some guy said this. If that was the case, I would have never, to be quite honest, if I was some trust fund kid, I would have probably never competed. I would have had no.
No, listen, Kai grew up in a box and with cobwebs.
And I had everything.
Scraping for food, and you had those.
If anything if anything of that narrative was true, that would make me look even more driven, because the majority of people that grow up wealthy don't want that much more success on their own. They would rely on their family's lineage and just let that carry them through. Whereas for me, I blazed my own trail. But no, like, I've always been the ultimate competitor. I think the biggest thing that might go unnoticed with me, or just maybe not has been talked about in other circles, is my competitive spirit. I've been competitive at every sport, everything I've done. And I just transferred all that into bodybuilding.
Sure.
And realizing that it's not about me making you on my team look better, being a guard, passing you the ball, hoping you make the shot.
Right.
Me is like, oh, I got to be responsible for my cardio, my training, my mind. Have you shot a basketball in front of 18,000 people, screaming, kids,
Right.
like calling you every name in the book? And once you get over the fear of being in those posing trunks on stage, having people stare at you, and then owning the fact that you're a piece of body art that they would wish that they could look like, now it's time for you to entertain them. Now it's time for you to be a showman. So be that person and have fun with it. So I just made sure that my competitive spirit always shined through. Nothing could ever like get me too far down. But
Did anybody ever get under your skin throughout your career? Like,
I mean,
the Kais, or there any
I
other
think it was
competitors?
with Kai and I mean, I think he got under my skin a little bit because of what his fans would say. He never directly said anything.
No.
It was,
Well, he's never directly said anything.
that's a good one.
But you seem to find it more amusing than any, we did numerous press conferences and junkets and things. But you seem to be more amused by the whole thing than really like he couldn't. It's almost like he would try to get under your skin a little bit, but it just seemed like it was just bounce off you, like you were.
Yeah, because I think you have to recognize this is not MMA, this is not boxing. Like this isn't even contact. This is not contact.
There was no
sport.
defense in bodybuilding.
Right. There's no contact sport involved. So if all you have is words, then that tells me that there's something of high intention that you're trying to distribute to get me to react in a negative way, enhancing what cortisol, self-doubt, like all those things. I've already done the self-work and I've already been on different mountaintops. We just happen to be, and this is what sounds crazy to some people, but I'm going to try to explain this very quick. Imagine being on this mountain and you haven't even and you're way down here. The day of the show, I have to walk off my perch to get all the way back down here for us to have a conversation. So you can't have a conversation with me up here because you haven't earned that. Right. So now I have to go all the way down this road, and now we're at the Mr. Olympia, and you want to, and I'm like, you do realize where I reside. I'm way up here. Right. So if people were to think about this, they have to, even with social media, even with people that they may work with, it isn't, you have to be careful because you can come off cocky and arrogant, but what you have to do is you have to realize, like, wait a minute, if I'm all these levels above you, it doesn't mean I have to talk down to you. It means that when I do come down and we have a conversation and you're talking to me as if you're way up here, you have to take a deep breath and say, no, what you're doing is projecting your insecurity. What you're doing is projecting that you want what I have. And just because I came down here doesn't mean I'm going to give it to you. You're going to have to take it. And I knew he wanted it. And I actually give him a lot of respect for the fact that he wanted it that bad because no one else did. Yeah. No one else came through like that.
For some years, it seemed like a two-man race.
It was just, no one will remember off the top of their head without them Googling who was third place all those years.
That's true. You don't.
No one will remember.
Doesn't really come into your mind immediately.
No. So, I mean, I give Kai a lot of credit for maintaining a level of excellence. I mean, arguably, in my opinion, he's going against one of the greatest of all time. So I prevented him from being Mr. Olympia. If Phil Heath was not around, like he would have stormed.
This guy would have been.
He would probably dominated them even easier because you don't remember who third place was.
What's the tools that you had to bring to the game changed? You had to actually develop some new tools because you're the first modern era Olympian that had to deal with this thing we call social media. Right? Listen, Arnold and all that. Listen, we had magazines back then. God bless Joe Weider and everybody else that put out the mags back then, right? But much like Hollywood back in the 50s and 60s, they controlled the narrative. You created champions. You put out what you wanted to put out. You lifted these guys up. You put them on pedestals. We made them idols. Just like when we grew up, bro. Right? Looking at the magazines and idolizing Arnold and Lou and Frank Zane and Robbie Robinson and all these fantastic champions. But it was really just what was fed to us.
Correct.
Nobody really knew these guys personally unless you happen to live in their area.
Right.
So for us, it was, you got that new Flex magazine or that new Muscle and Fitness, and you're reading about the champs and their routines. And, so it was very controlled back then.
Yes.
There came a point right during your career, because literally that's when the magazines were still there, but now the internet was here and social media started to kind of creep in there. So you had to actually deal with a whole bunch of stuff that Jay caught a little bit,
Yes.
right at the end, but you caught it flush right in the face. But
Yeah.
now you've received some criticism for that. You've also received some accolades for that. You know,
Right.
so like you're not one to dodge people. You would
No.
call people out when they would get a little too mouthy, a little too porky.
And I think what people have to realize is that it was all in good fun. I think what people fail to realize is that just because of there being one or two, or let's say over a course of like 3 years, there's like maybe 50 interactions, that if someone were to say something, I would hit them not with a personal attack, but just say, I don't really agree with what you're saying, and what you're saying is wrong, and this, that, and the other. Oh, Phil's this, oh my gosh. It's like, no, dude, I'm actually meeting you. Or let's say you did say something disrespectful and I say something back. That is me standing up for myself.
Sure.
I shouldn't allow cyberbullying to exist. Kids nowadays kill themselves because of cyberbullying. I think sometimes
That is a big
kids should
problem.
stand up for themselves and actually tell that person, you know what, you don't bother me, but I'm going to tell you about you now, because I don't necessarily feel like I should, like, look, if I'm in the mood to provide you energy back, there's no problem with that with me, because I know that no one has ever come to me with that same energy in the flesh. Now, with that said, evolving with the evolution of social media, I was able to monetize it very well.
Did you see a difference between, let's just say, your first Olympia and your last? Like, did it change in 7 years? Did it become worse, better, more prevalent, more of a pain in the ass, something you had to distract you, or did you just compartmentalize it?
I did a little bit of all the above, to be honest, and here's how you do it. Like, okay, so your first one, everybody's excited for you. Second one, everybody's happy for you. When Generation Iron comes out after the third one, which, by the way, I won with one call out, which,
yeah, that's pretty.
it's not like it's going to be, that 2013 is probably going to have its own freaking documentary one day because of just what happened. People don't even know like what really happened.
Well, that was nothing but net, bro.
Right.
I mean, that was kind
like
of a one and done.
The craziest, like, that hasn't happened. I think J.M. Mangan told me backstage, he goes, that hadn't happened since '88 with Lee Haney.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I can verify that.
Yeah. So like, we're talking what is that? 35 years. That's a big deal. Like, that's something that I can say. You know, when you talk about the accolades, like,
Sure.
having one call out in a 2-day competition.
Well, it's the ultimate respect on a bodybuilding stage,
right.
because we don't have any other methods of.
Correct.
It's all comparison, right?
Right.
So the fact that really anybody else was only worthy of really one comparison, where they went, all right, we're done
Like,
here.
we're done here. Like, we don't need to make him go through these paces.
I assume that you were a veteran at that point, so you had to have known, like, okay, I just totally
smoked this thing.
Smoked this one right here.
But even with that, I think, look, I got so good that they had to nitpick me with a greater lens.
Sure.
And that was probably the hardest thing to digest, because you're like, wait a minute, you're judging it how you see it, right? Well, no, because something subjective can be objective. So here's how it works. You win the first one, you win the second one, you win the third one, then the fourth one comes. Fourth one, actually, if Kai wouldn't have acted a fool at the press conference and stuck to his guns,
right.
He might have got me, because here's why. Friday, I was not sharp enough, but neither was he.
Yeah, he wasn't either.
So I improved on Saturday and blew him away. And only thing, again, what people will show is, for some strange reason, Friday.
Right.
And that is also something that I learned with social media, how this works. It's like a news cycle. If we're going to show Phil Heath, we're not going to always show him in the greatest light, because we're trying to make it competitive. So if you look at all of I always wore purple trunks on Friday and teal on Saturday. They don't really show the teal ones enough, because why? Because the most competitive ones are
I was
in the
going to
purple.
say, yeah, it's like picking the worst photo against.
Right,
Yeah,
but you kind of, I mean, I get it. So
Sure.
I had to realize that was happening. Do I cry, bitch, and moan about it? No, you just realize that this is the game that's being played. So come number 5, the noise was even louder, because now there's no Kai Green.
Right.
Kai Green produced a narrative saying that he was banned. People were like, what the hell's going on?
For the record, that was all bullshit.
Well, we know, but like,
So-
but I still had to deal with this noise, right? They're like, Phil, you did something that caused this. I'm like, what? Anyway, these are the things that Phil.
You were the guy in the grassy knoll on that one.
I, along with my family, are getting death threats on Facebook. Like, no BS. Like, people say, what? You're actually getting, yes. I literally had to go to the federation and say, can I get out of security because this is what's going on? So number 5, they're saying like, oh yeah, your stomach and this and that and the other. I said, okay. So when I came out in number 5, I went like this.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
At the prejudging. And that was to give everybody the middle finger of saying, I heard you and I improved. So because of me making improvement, I won this thing now. And again, what do we see? We only see me in the red trunks on prejudging. So then number 6 comes, and that point in time, after number 5, I remember realizing, oof, you're in real legendary territory right now.
Yeah.
So my mindset was, okay, you've got 3 more levels to go to tie the big one. You got Dorian, you got Arnold, and you got Lee and Ronnie. What did Dorian do to win that 6th? And it's like, well, he was the hardest guy. He was the hardest trainer. He was this, that, and the other. He trained with great intensity. I'm like, then Phil, you got to go through another level of intensity to get that. So I was doing like more rows, more back, more everything. And just, I wanted the graininess. I wanted that. So I did that. And then obviously I won. And then number 7 was all about tying Arnold. And with social media, it did get easier, but the narrative got stronger of like, it's like they didn't move the goalpost, but you got to keep in mind, and fans probably don't even remember this. At one point in time in Flex magazine, it said the fans become a judge at the Olympia table. And it was true.
Yeah.
So this is by our president, and I love him. But it's like that was, and I said, and that's what, what I said? As much as this sucks, they only do this to the greatest. They did it with Ronnie Coleman with the challenge round. So instead of doing a challenge round, they do this. Whoa. So Phil, if anything, they're just acknowledging how great you are. When they have to do certain things to change things around, it's like the Jordan rules back in the day, or like hack a Shaq. You have to do things to make it more even, or at least for the fans.
It's just part of the business.
Right. So even for the fan point of view, you have to do it, because what did fans do? Oh man, Phil can go down. Well, I worked really hard and I got better at that. And that allowed me to realize, wow, Phil, you really have to not just beat yourself every day. You have to beat the competitors. You have to be good enough for the judges, and you also have to beat the fans that have ridden with you. And sometimes, again, even, I wouldn't say family members wanted me to lose, but I'm just saying, like, some people would probably be like, well, like somebody else, you know what I mean? Like, we've seen you win, so we'll be happy if Bob wins 1. I mean, what's 1?
Right.
It's like, what's 1? So,
Jeez, be a nice guy. Man.
Yeah, he's a nice
share
guy.
The wealth.
Yeah, it's like having cookies or something. It's like, well, you have all the cookies. Why can't you just give him 1?
I was like, wait a minute, this is
like, no, this is mine.
This is all me. We talked about the business, and obviously things would be put in place. Listen, we got to sell tickets at the end of the day, right? We have a sport to produce. That doesn't mean anything. This wasn't wrestling. I mean, nothing was predetermined.
No.
To this day, we still get stuff about the press conference. Everybody thinks that we were like this was scripted or was set up in advance. And you and I can sit here right to the cameras and tell people nothing was scripted.
No.
The stuff that we put out there. I mean, listen, would I entice somebody a certain way or try to get it? Of course, that's my job, right? But the much talked about, always talked about. Press conference. Number one I probably get as much as you do. Everybody thought it was completely set up when I asked Kai, give me 3 reasons you beat Phil Heath, and then I shot it to you. Well, obviously, we go back a long way. I knew exactly where you're going to go and all that, but it was not set up. When I went back to you and says, okay, Phil, you give me 3 reasons. Boom. I mean, you just
Did you think I was going to say that? Or
I knew exactly what you were going to, yeah. I mean, yes, it was a nice big.
It was like an alley-oop dunk.
Big alley-oop, filled to the hole type of thing. But it was such an epic comeback and a mic drop moment that it just worked out perfectly. But it was not scripted.
No, it wasn't, because there's no way in hell that could be, even if we tried, because I'm too damn depleted to remember anything, number one. But then also, number two, you wouldn't know like what Kai's reaction would be. And I still remember that to this day. I mean, the noise was getting loud, and I could see that what he was trying to do is impose his will.
Yeah.
And he'd look at me and say, like, how does it feel? And this and that. And I'm like laughing because I was very, very confident in my ability of knowing that, like, this guy is done. Like, I got this guy's number.
But that, I mean, that response of, Phil,
oh yeah, like,
Phil, give me 3 reasons, and you spout off the last 3 Olympia.
Yeah.
It kind of said everything without saying anything. It was perfect.
It was, in my opinion, it'll always go down as the greatest. It's got to be top 2 of all time press conferences in history. I mean,
yeah.
I'd probably say the "Why Complain" by Ronnie Coleman is probably like
for different reasons.
For different reasons. I mean, I think like what he said because of what Sean Ray said.
For mic drop moments, I think it's number 1.
Yeah,
and I've done them all.
Yeah,
so, I mean, it's of all modern era.
Well, he had the mic. This is how I viewed it. After I said that, the crowd erupted, and his response, he still had a microphone in his hand. He had every opportunity to say something back. And he goes, well, that's the past. And it's like, but you didn't have anything really to add to it. And he just put it down. And that's what I said to my crew. I said, he's going to start something tonight. Like, he's going to, like, tomorrow night, he's going to pick a fight or do something because, and I remember my cousins were like, why would he do that? It's not that serious. I go, no, it is. Because I would do it. If I was in a situation, I would do it. That's why, I said in an interview once, I said, I love the guy because I know what he's thinking because I would have done the same thing because of being a top competitive person.
Sure.
You're a highly competitive person. You want it more than air. You want it more than anything else. You've sacrificed enough and then was willing to do it again and again. No, you're willing to fight for this.
You and Kai always now remind me of Bert, of Magic and Bird. Mm-hmm. Just in that you were competitive, you both wanted to win, you hated each other, the whole thing. And now, obviously, after the smoke has cleared and you're both retired former champs now, you actually seem to get along. I mean, I know you guys have done appearances together. You've had a chance to kind of catch up as real people to a degree. And but it's interesting to see because it's like now you can actually sit down and talk about those days because it's so fleeting. Like those days we talk about stuff as if it just happened. And you and I will sit there and talk about stuff and it was like, holy crap, that was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow, that was 10 years ago. It's like, oh my God, there's a whole nother generation of bodybuilders there now.
Yeah.
You guys are the OGs. You were just a new kid.
Exactly. I just saw Kai last week. I was at a Gymshark event and he was there representing another brand. And we happened to, here's how it works. I can be talking like this with a whole crew of people here. Kai Green walks in the room and everybody will get quiet because they're assuming there's like, okay, corral, like who's going to shoot first. And we're in a green room and he walks in and he's like, oh, here he is. And I'm like, there you are. And we'll always have this energy. And I do believe in a positive way, we elevated the sport of bodybuilding. We totally elevated it because no one organically disliked each other the way we did. But it wasn't like... it
was competitive.
It was highly competitive.
Sure.
It wasn't like we were, King Kamali, Craig Titus. Like they weren't the champion. Like
bodybuilders. They hated each other.
They just hated each other. We, on the other hand, we were fighting for number 1. And that's what started. It had nothing else to do with anything other than me being number 1.
You never hated him. Listen, I don't think you really cared really at that point. You just wanted to beat his ass on stage.
Yeah, I think you need someone that you can fight with. Sure. I think it only...
Did he make you better?
Oh, absolutely. Because I can say I made him better.
Yeah.
We pushed each other in that regard because we knew on our worst day in the gym that the other person was training harder.
Well, Bird and Magic, I mean, you've seen all the same 30 for 30s and last dances and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They actually said, listen, this guy drove me to be a better player because I knew he was there and he elevated me. But he was always in your rear view mirror. Like you couldn't discount him. I mean, listen, whether you liked him, hated him, anything in between, he was a damn good bodybuilder.
100%.
And he had the tools.
Definitely had the tools.
Whether it be physically or mentally, right?
He had it. I mean, like, you can't disregard
he had the means to take you out.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
he could have done it.
Right. He had it more. He actually had it more than Sean because, with Sean, he didn't have, like, Kai and Sean are, like, different bodybuilders. Yeah. Kai Green is probably, he's one of the greatest posers, especially at that size. I don't think we've ever seen
No.
a poser at that size ever.
I don't know any other 300 pounders that can stand on their head.
No, but then also have the density in that back and the legs. I mean, the guy still walks around pretty damn big, but you know, his work ethic. He was willing to work hard. I mean, and he showed you, and I applaud that, because that's what bodybuilding is. The problem that he probably didn't conquer is the fact that he went against someone like myself, who also trained hard, just differently, but then understood the emotional strength too, on how to face an adversary,
Sure,
and still find a way. And 2-day competitions prove that. 2-day competitions are something that, like, no other previous Olympia champion other than Jay Cutler, when he won, I think he won 2 that were 2-day show. No, 3. I think no, he won all of them for a 2-day show. Yeah, because that's how he beat Coleman.
right.
So Jay understands. Ronnie and the others don't, because like 2-day shows are they mess with your mind. They mess with your emotions, because I mean, it's hard to peak twice.
It's hard.
It's very hard. So, you know, understanding all of that, like, you have to have a strong will. You have to have some spirituality going on. You have to have, you know, a good circle of influence, but you also have to know that this is what you truly desire. Because if you have 1 ounce of like real doubt, you're opening yourself up to get your ass kicked by someone like me.
Sure,
who's
coming up.
You know, willing to die for it. You know, so I mean, with Kai and myself, I don't ever think we'll see that again.
Will we see another 7 or 8 time champion anytime soon, in your opinion, or will we be old and gray doing this?
I mean, if we're talking about a different category, maybe.
No, let's just stick
But
with.
If we're talking about open,
let's just talk about the Mister.
I think for the Mr. Olympia title, I think the person that could probably do it is competing in a different category right now that should be competing in open, maybe because they're too afraid to do it. But yeah, I mean, I have to assume at some point in my lifetime, in our lifetime, that it can happen, but it's going to require a certain.
Do you see anybody right now, current, or do you think that the next Phil Heath or Ronnie Coleman isn't even, maybe he's not even?
I don't think
bodybuilding right now.
I don't think they're bodybuilding right now, but then also, here's how I view it. When you say the next Phil Heath, you say the next Ronnie Coleman, it's all about who you beat. The next person that gets 7, they're going to be, look, like, people are going to compare him to, look, I get compared to people. I see the posts all the time, like, they compare this person to Phil Heath, this person. That lets me know, like, where I stand, right? There's a certain standard, but here's where I'm going with this. Who did that person beat? See, I can say I beat Jay Cutler, I beat Dennis Wolf, I beat Victor Martinez, Dexter Jackson, I beat Branch Warren, I beat a lot of different types of champions. I beat a lot of greats that didn't win the Olympia. See, Ronnie Coleman can say the same thing. He beat a Kevin Levrone, he beat a Flex Wheeler, he beat a Sean Ray, he beat a lot of guys.
2 most competitive eras.
Right, so there's very competitive eras with this. Dorian Yates could say the same thing, right? Like, very competitive. The newer guys, like, I don't know if you can compare those guys to even my era or Dexter's era or Jay's era. I don't think you can. I think you take a Branch Warren at his peak and put him into this. He might arguably, like, you take a 09 Branch Warren and put him in this year's Olympia, he's giving a lot of people hell. Yeah. He probably could win the whole damn thing and win it straight first. That's just my opinion. I mean, like, he could arguably do that. You take a Dexter Jackson of 08, put him in this, he's probably walking away with a Sandow. Yeah. Like, to be fair, like, it's going to happen. You take a Dexter Jackson of 2009, that when he lost to Jay, he could arguably win this year's Olympia. So this is what I'm getting at. Like, it's always going to be about who you beat. You can win 10 Mr. Olympias. They're going to be a 10-time Mr. Olympia champion. But the way that this world currently works, in my opinion, with social media, they're only going to compare that legacy to everyone else's legacy. They compare Jordan's legacy to Bill Russell. To that's what happens. So that's why they don't even give the nod to the LeBron James, because they're comparing legacies against legacy. So they could say LeBron lost the NBA championships. Jordan never did, so therefore he's the best, you know, and he got all these other titles to prove it.
So Phil, bodybuilding career in the back pocket. You've now turned your attention to being a true entrepreneur. You've got numerous business, interests and things and stuff you're involved with, in all different levels, bodybuilding and out of bodybuilding. Mm-hmm. So the mindset now has to shift from bodybuilder to businessman.
Yes. So what's really cool about that is I get to take all the knowledge from working for various brands throughout the last almost 20 years and get to apply it to brands that I really want to be a part of or the ones that I'm building. One in particular, obviously having a partnership with Panatta, being able to work very closely with the team, talking about all of the incredible equipment, being able to go on tour, explaining how the equipment works and how it's being beneficial at this point in time in my life and how it could be better in theirs. Also with Transcend, I'm working with them. That's been a huge opportunity for not just myself, but also for my wife, as we work with a telehealth medical company that really focuses on, true, honest wellness, getting proper blood work, working with real endocrinologists and wellness specialists that allow, whether you be a bodybuilder or anyone, to see themselves at more of an optimal person, whether it be, cognitively,
Sure.
because hey, without your brain, what do you have? And
Not
then
much.
not much, right? So, and then also making sure that you understand what those markers really mean on your blood panels, because the last thing we want is for people to go to the gym and not know what they're fighting against.
And this is something fairly new, because when you started your career, there was none of this stuff.
No,
There was no blood panels. Nobody really told you to go get your blood work done.
no,
If there was a problem, of course, you'd go get something done.
right.
But that has greatly changed over the years. But you've immersed yourself with Transcendence. You're not just a spokesman. You're not out there just collecting a check and waving
Right.
hello. You and your wife, Cherie, are an integral part of the company. You're actually
Yes.
a part of the company.
Yeah, so we're partners with Transcend, and
Yeah.
and it's been a great experience, working with Ernie, the owner, along with his wife Jen, and the team with at Transcend. It's just, again, aligning ourselves with really good people that have a really great message and helping them transcend their health to an all-time
Good
level.
one, bro.
Exactly. And what was really cool about them is that I was approached with this opportunity a couple years ago. I had never aligned myself with any type of, HRT
Right.
company or what have you, because honestly, I just did not trust them. I was able to take the different medications, but not just hormonally, but like joints.
Sure.
Figuring out like, wow, like I've had torn MCL, I've had, obviously the hernia surgeries. What is out there in that science field that it can help reduce inflammation, more enhancing more connective tissue? Why? So then I can live a more optimal life, because I got to chase freaking Rudy Panatta at 73 years old in the
luck.
gym. So I got to get an added advantage to make sure all the aches, all the pains that I've acquired through winning those championships can be reduced, so then I can have a greater, longer life. But then outside of that, there's a lot of other projects, such as my documentary that'll be dropping next year, first quarter next year, called Breaking Olympia. We have some really exciting
Can't wait to see it. Yeah.
some very exciting news coming out potentially.
Come on, give me a little something, Phil.
This year's Olympia,
All right.
with me commentating at the live pay-per-view, I already know where you'll be.
Yeah.
The fans that are going to be watching online are in for a treat. That's all I can say. You're in for something this documentary is doing something no documentary in bodybuilding has ever done before. With the help of our team, with Seven Bucks Productions, with Danny Garcia, Dwayne Johnson, with Brett Harvey, our director, with Adam Scorgi of Scorgi Productions, and our new distributor and producer, and it's a big deal. It's a very big deal, and I'm very proud of it. We've already won a couple of awards. We actually, now that I forgot to even mention this. We're in Italy. We had 2 awards that we won in the Florence Film Festival Awards this year. So we've had some really good success. Outside of that, I've been on the instead of the guest posing tour, I've been on the global speaking tour.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of public speaking, motivational speaking. I talk with C-suite executives at different corporations, talking about the mindset of a champion, of having to increase their stamina at a certain level. Because when we talk about peak performance can go up and then come down.
Sure.
But for a bodybuilder, you want to always have steady growth, right? You never want to have a dip. You can't do that. So those are just a few of the things that I have going on.
Well, one cool thing is so we were all collectively able to merge these companies together. We're now Transcend.
Yep.
One of your companies.
Yep.
Is now building a gym. With another one of your companies that you're a part of, right?
Yep.
And you're going to have an entire Transcend gym, we'll call it. I don't know if it's actually going to have a name to it, but I'm sure your name would be attached to it. But you're actually going to have your own Panatta gym with Transcend and be able to do videos, of course, and we can do interviews and instructional tutorials, because I know this is very important to you. And obviously, as we talked about earlier with training with Rudy and such, we'll now be able to take that knowledge from somebody like Rudy and push that out. But it's different because the machines are so specific to how your physique works that you have to have the machine to instruct somebody how to use it.
Right.
You can't really just tell them, like, if you have one at your gym.
Right.
So this is a great opportunity, and that's all in the works right now.
Yeah, it's in the works right now. I mean, I literally signed the paperwork today, and I'm very, very pleased. I'm very, very excited. Having that opportunity to work with Rudy and his son and the entire team
is a dream come true, to be quite honest, because you very rarely get to be in alignment with people that are good people. And actually do great things. I mean, they treat us so freaking well. They advise that they put us up. There's the best dinners, the best experiences. But then when it's time to go to work, we work hard. And I love his mentality of just like, we will work hard and we'll play hard too. But knowing that, I will have custom pieces of equipment in my own facility and be able to film constantly. And I know that's something that everybody has wanted to see throughout my entire career. It's like, can we see the freaking YouTube? Can we see you more in the gym? Can we just see?
Well, you were a little busy, winning Olympias and creating a legacy, a dynasty, whatever you want to call it, for some years. So this is now...
It's the perfect time.
It's the perfect timing, right?
Because now I can show that, look, like I was able to gain, obviously, a certain level of physique, but watch what I get to do next using Panatta.
What do you think you could have done if you had this type of stuff, I don't know, 15 years ago? Would it have made a difference?
I would have won probably the same amount, but I would have looked even better.
Ain't that?
I think I would have won the same amount, right? But I would have looked much better.
And how about the preservation, right? I mean, you've been pretty lucky in your career. Right? Well, I shouldn't call it lucky. Controlled in your career, as opposed to, I mean, listen, we love Ronnie Coleman to death. One of the best. Actually, he's one of our Panatta, ambassadors, to say the least. But he's broken down. I mean, he's beat up, and not just Ronnie. I mean, we know a lot, especially me. I'm obviously a little bit older than you, so I mean, these are guys I competed with, and a lot of them are just broken down and beat up and all that stuff. And I can't help but think, if they had better access. We grew up with barbells and dumbbells, and yes, there was some modern equipment, but nothing like this stuff, state of the art.
The new breed of athlete right now has a great opportunity to be able to use this equipment. It is available worldwide. Look, I tell people, you get what you pay for. If you want to run a Ferrari on 85 octane, it ain't going to go any. If you consider your body the Ferrari of a Lamborghini, like, you should be putting great fuel in it, great food, great, nutrition. Why not the greatest equipment? To make sure that you have, like you said, the gains in the gym, but longevity for life. They make all different types of equipment. They even make equipment for, people with physical disabilities and stuff. And that's what's really cool about having Rudy as the owner, because he is a bodybuilder, and his son, Eduardo, also has the mindset of, what about physical therapy? What about hospitals? What about kids? And they can do it. They don't have a board that tells them you can't do this because it's going to cost us much money. They're like, no, we own the company. We'll do it.
This is the very essence of not corporate.
Everything they're doing is in full contribution mode. And that's what we're able to see. And that's why we both align with this company.
Right. Every piece of Panatta equipment has Rudy's signature on there,
which I freaking love, because that means that he has gone through the steps to make sure. I mean, he's in quality control, like nonstop. Like, we just saw him creating a new glute machine that my wife was on, and then he had her tested out. He had another couple girls tested out, and next thing you know, last night at dinner, he said, "I scrapped it. I did."
He'll change it completely around.
It's just so cool, and we get to benefit from it along with himself. We're going to be doing a lot of appearances together.
That's cool. Just took my next question. So we're going to be spending a whole bunch of time together. Always a great thing. Preaching Panatta, putting your brand out there, of course. It's Phil Heath, the 7-time champ, and all that. But yeah, it ain't slowing down this year. We've got overseas. We've got FIBO. We've got Rimini. We've got Arnold Classic UK. The Arnold, Ohio. The regular Arnold, the Olympia. So we're going to be everywhere.
getting out there, seeing the people, we had those lockdowns and stuff where for at least a couple years that the fans weren't able to have access.
Right.
For us to be able to say, we live in America, but we travel worldwide, but we're traveling to you, we're talking about the equipment, and we're showing you how it works. That is the biggest thing. The application is everything. We could talk about, you could talk about supplements, but show us the application. You can't really do that right then and there. With equipment, we can show you right then and there. And for me, it's given me more motivation to keep putting on a little bit more size. Because Rudy's hard. He drove a hard bargain. He told me like, hey, what would it look like if next year you're at the FIBO and you looked a little different? And I'm like,
I see a little spark coming in.
Yeah, so it's like I see what he's doing. He's trying to scratch the surface to see what's there. So
well, Phil, as always, my brother, great catching up with you, man.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to do some more world traveling with you and continue the Panatta train as we go. So,
yep,
my brother.
Thank you.
I'll see you.
Yeah. Watch out! Watch out!
What's the
Those
matter?
fibers are going.
Pushing too many pencils. Huh?
He wants to see the. Ooh.
All right. Too fun.